What's the beef? Chefs, I hope we are well. I'm coming in with a very, very strong rant today. This is for anyone who watched the Game Changers documentary on Netflix, alright? And in a world where people haven't a fucking clue about nutrition, documentaries like this end up doing a huge amount of damage because a lot of the time they're incorrect, they're wrong, and they lie to suit their point of view because they're extremely biased. So I watched the documentary for a couple of minutes and then I had a conversation with my missus a couple of days later, and I heard she was kind of convinced of a lot of what they were saying. So I was like, okay, well, I'll need to go back and watch over some of this again, because sometimes when I watch vegan documentaries I get angry because of how biased they actually are. And it's not that I hate vegans. I don't have a problem with you doing it for moral reasons, but when you're lying about the health benefits versus meat, I have a problem with it. So I'm all about the truth. I'm all about fucking critical thinking and actually looking at what you're watching and questioning it and thinking what the truth is for yourself. So that's why I'm doing this video. So I'm not going to dive into every single point of it individually with a fucking fine-tooth comb and go in and out. There's a handful of points that piss me off that I hear people talking about to give it, like, they're backing it and saying, oh, it must be true. It must be true. Fucking bullshit. So let me start off by giving you this whole context. The good 90% of that documentary is based on anecdotal evidence. Does anyone not know what anecdotal means? That means based on personal experience. It doesn't mean based in fact. So I'll say that again. The good majority of the information in the documentary is anecdotal. It's not factual. But everyone's, it must be fact because they got someone in a white coat saying it and Jackie Chan's the executive producer. Go fuck yourself. First and foremost, shit dicks. Here's number one. In that documentary, they kept saying that he's the world's strongest man because they had this fucking, I don't know where the fuck this lad was from. He looked like a 19th century circus fucking strong man with a fucking reptile of an old beard, and he was lifting heavy weights. And because he's a vegan, and I've known about this guy for years, he's a vegan and he's the strongest man in the world. Fuck off. He's not the strongest man in the world. He's the strongest plant-based athlete in the world. And guess what? There's a competition every year to see who the strongest man in the world is. It's on around Christmas. Fuckface McGinty in that documentary was nowhere near that. He wasn't even in the top 10. He mightn't even be in the top 20. He might be like 21st strongest in the world. So go fuck yourself. Number one, first and foremost. Oh, but he's the strongest man. They said he's the strongest man. He's not the strongest man. He's the strongest vegan, which is fucking miles away from the strongest man. Brian Shaw, Zydrunas Savickas, and fucking Eddie Hall are the three strongest people in the world, followed by Thor Bjornsson, and then there's some other fucking jabroni out there. You know, that lad, don't even know what his name is. He's nowhere near the fucking podium. Anyway, he's not the strongest man in the world. Number two, they used the Nate Diaz-McGregor example, and that's what everyone's going, oh my God, it's amazing. Like, he beat him because he eats fucking lentils. Shut up to fuck. Let me tell you something here. Number one, first and foremost, the McGregor-Diaz number one fight. They're stating that the majority of what caused Nate Diaz to win that fight was the fact that he's been plant-based and McGregor was eating multiple steaks the week of the fucking fight and the week before to try and make weight. Let me explain this first and foremost. So within an athlete, within every single human being, you have energy systems. So you have three systems that are responsible for different types of movement. For endurance athletes, which is what Nate Diaz is, because he's been doing triathlons his entire fucking adult life alongside his brother Nick, okay? And they have massively developed aerobic systems. What a massively developed aerobic system means is that you can go for very long periods of time because your lungs and your heart can recover quickly. On the opposite side of the spectrum, you have something called the creatine phosphate system. This is the system that's used for explosive movements and bursts. And again, it lasts for a short amount of time. Diaz has developed his aerobic system. McGregor is highly developed in his creatine phosphate system. So naturally, their muscle fibers and how their bodies perform in very, very different ways. So McGregor is far more fast twitch and he's far more creatine phosphate, which means that he explodes for a round or two and then he tends to fatigue. Nate Diaz is the opposite. He actually builds as he goes and he never enters really high intensity movement. He always stays with high volume punches, peppering his opponents until they break down and they run out of gas. Now that's their athletic development. On the other side of it, we look at the nutrition. Oh my God, he was eating 2 steaks, so therefore he burnt out. Fuck off. This is what actually happened. In the build-up to that fight, McGregor was supposed to fight Rafael dos Anjos at 155, a weight class below 170 where he fought Nate Diaz. Now, to cut down to 155, he had to get his body weight down. 2 weeks before the fight, Rafael dos Anjos broke his foot and dropped out of the fight, also being a totally different athlete to Nate Diaz. He's a very, very explosive fighter, and McGregor was preparing exactly for that type of fight. So when he dropped out, Nate Diaz stepped in with 2 weeks notice, giving McGregor 2 weeks to put on 10 pounds and make the 170 limit. He weighed in at 168 for that fight, which tells you, even with all the food he was taking, he was trying to eat an enormous amount of calories to make the fucking weight. So you think about depleting your body massively and then trying to double down and double the intake of food into your body. You are going to be all over the fucking place, on top of your preparation being totally different. Absolutely nothing to do with plants. Zero. Zilch. Not even a fucking chance. And actually, to top all of this off, maybe Nate Diaz is just a fucking better fighter on the night. He's a high-level jiu-jitsu black belt who has a lot of fucking endurance, and he's a good boxer. So that's what happened. He peppers you with shots, and once he takes you onto the fucking ground, he's probably going to take your back and choke you out. Zero to do with nutrition, zero to do with fucking diet. And if you want to look at McGregor's performance, there's a lot of reasons for why he performed that way. Again, there's no excuse, but the vegan versus fucking meat eater comparison, it's nothing to do with it. It's such a small fucking aspect of it. And then the last thing was the social proofing that they used in the documentary. So obviously they have Arnie on the front as he's like the executive producer. They have Jackie Chan on the front. Listen, Arnold, has anyone seen Pumping Iron? Fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger wasn't fucking eating plants when he was trying to make it as the world's Mr. Olympia. He was the best bodybuilder to ever live, and he lived off gigantic amounts of protein. Go back and read the encyclopedia of bodybuilding. Go back and read any of Arnie's old books. Go back and look at the training programs. Go back and look at the nutrition plans of any bodybuilder from the golden age of bodybuilding. All of them ate massive quantities of protein, massive quantities of meat. So to say, oh, well, Arnie's plant-based now, so that must mean something, means fuck all. I'll tell you what it means. It means that a couple of weeks before the documentary was made, the producers of the show handed Arnie a fucking massive check. And the same thing goes for Jackie Chan. And then they've got NBA players and all these professional athletes. And I'll tell you another thing about that. The professional athletes, oh, well, they're in the NBA and they're fucking eating plants. No, they're not. They didn't get to the NBA eating plants. They got to the NBA with a regular diet, and I guarantee you they got fucking paid a lot of money to be in the documentary and put your name on it. So fucking morons like half these twats who watch these documentaries look at it and go, oh my god, vegetables are amazing. That's not your problem. Stop fucking looking at the surface reason. It's like looking on Instagram and seeing a fucking someone's arse and going, well, that must be what they really look like. It's photoshopped and bullshit. Same thing with the fucking documentary. Oh, the reason I'm getting so angry about this is because you need to be questioning what you're taking in. Documentaries like this do massive amounts of fucking damage because you've all these morons who don't even know what their problem is. I'll tell you what your fucking problem is. Your problem is you sit on your hole watching fucking Love Island, you do fuck all exercise, and you use multiple Domino's codes to stuff your lard arse with fucking pizza on the weekend, and then you drink pints to wash it fucking down. And you're massively ill-disciplined and you're massively inconsistent. So all you need to do, eat a bit more spinach, eat a fucking chicken breast or a steak, and start exercising. You fuck. That's all it fucking takes. So stop worrying about, you know, should I be eating a 3-bean salad? Should I be having more guacamole? Should I be fucking licking fucking lettuce sticks or fucking celery sticks? Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? It's nothing to do with it, son. It's nothing to do with it. So with these documentaries, like, I could keep going on stuff, but the reality is, I understand a plant-based diet if you're doing it for moral reasons. If you want to excel at the top level of athletics, it's as simple as this. If you're trying to compare protein sources, like there is a test called a protein amino acid digestibility score. And what that does is it ranks a source of protein between 0.0 and 1.0. Okay? 0.0 and 1.0. And what that indicates is how bioavailable is that source of protein. So you take it into your body. What bioavailable means is I take a fucking piece of steak and I eat that steak. How good is that source for my body to take and use as a rebuild and repurpose to build new tissue, resynthesize new tissue. Whereas a piece of steak would be like 0.9, whereas a fucking lentil or any kind of pulse would probably be like 0.2, 0.3. That's a test done in a fucking lab. It's not anecdotal. Jackie Chan's nowhere near it. Arnie's fucking nowhere near it. Here's the fucking crack, you fuck. It's a clear score to let you know which is a better source of protein. High qualities of red meat from free-range sources. Venison, steaks, you know, any kind of free-range steak that's not factory farmed. These score extremely high on the protein digestibility amino acid sheet. Whereas plant-based sources score much, much, much fucking lower. Put it in context. If your goal is to be big and strong, you need good sources of protein. There is no argument. Vegetables are excellent for you. You don't have to cut out meat to eat vegetables, you fucking idiot. Eat good sources of protein and eat greens. It's a fucking miracle. Oh my God. Life-changing stuff. Oh, but it must be the fact that I eat a fucking steak once a week. No, Margaret. It's the fact that you're stuffing your face with Rustler's burgers and eating shit and drinking and capitulating and taking diet pills and potions to plaster the fact that you're an ill-disciplined sack of shit. That's your fucking issue. Anyway, I say these things kind of satirically. I'm not really angry at Margaret, wherever she might be. But I hope this clicks with a lot of people. Start actually being objective. Start looking at the truth. When people just flat out lie and they use anecdotes to explain a fucking point of view because they're emotionally attached to that point of view, it has to be shut down. It has to be put down. Fuck me, chefs. Can't fucking deal with it. So anyway, just if you you'll probably hear people going, that documentary was amazing. That was amazing. It was amazing. I'm going to start doing vegan on Monday. Yeah, all right, pal. I'll fucking stick some fucking steaks over my eyes and then start windmilling until I smash you in the face, you fuck. Anyway, right, chefs, be good.